ABC General Hospital spoilers reveal that, for those of us who have spent decades watching General Hospital, there is something fascinating about the way the show continues to reinvent old themes while introducing new mysteries. I have followed this series for so many years that I often find myself comparing current storylines to some of the most memorable eras in the show's history. What strikes me most about the latest developments involving Sidwell, Cullum, Britt, Pascal, and the shadow of Faison is that the writers appear to be building a story that is not simply about power or revenge. Instead, it feels like a story about obsession, legacy, and the dangerous consequences of refusing to let the past die. As I watch these episodes unfold, I keep coming back to one central question. Why is Sidwell so desperate to find Britt? On the surface, the answer seems obvious. Britt possesses knowledge connected to the cold fusion research that Sidwell and Cullum have been pursuing. Yet I believe there is something much deeper happening beneath the surface. General Hospital has always been at its best when characters are motivated by personal demons rather than simple ambition. Sidwell's actions suggest that he is no longer merely chasing scientific advancement, he is chasing control. The disappearance of Britt has created a vacuum that is affecting nearly every aspect of this storyline. Her absence is becoming more powerful than her presence. We do not see her, yet every major decision appears to revolve around her. That is often the mark of an effective mystery. The character who is missing becomes the center of gravity for everyone else's actions. Cullum appears to be under increasing pressure. In many ways, he seems trapped between loyalty and fear. Sidwell demands results. The experiments must continue. The research cannot be allowed to disappear. Yet the further Cullum goes down this road, the more unstable the situation becomes. I have watched enough soap operas over the years to know that characters who believe they can control dangerous scientific projects almost always discover that they have become prisoners of their own creation. The cold fusion project itself has become a symbol of temptation. It promises unlimited possibilities, limitless power, and perhaps even a revolutionary breakthrough that could change the world. But General Hospital rarely tells stories about scientific miracles without exploring the moral cost. Every major breakthrough on this show tends to leave emotional destruction in its wake. That is why I suspect the research is not the true story. The true story is what people are willing to sacrifice in order to possess it. Then we come to Britt. What if Britt's disappearance is not an act of fear at all? What if it is an act of resistance? That possibility becomes more intriguing with every episode. Perhaps Britt discovered something within the research that terrified her. Perhaps she learned that the project was never intended to benefit humanity. Perhaps she uncovered evidence that the entire operation had been corrupted long before Sidwell entered the picture. This brings me to Faison. Even after all these years, Faison continues to cast a shadow over Port Charles. That is one of the remarkable things about truly memorable villains. Their influence survives long after they are gone. The mention of Faison's legacy immediately raises alarms in my mind because history has shown us repeatedly that anything connected to Faison eventually leads to tragedy. What fascinates me is the suggestion that the plans associated with Faison's legacy may not move forward. At first glance, that sounds like good news. If the project is halted, countless lives could be spared. Yet I am not convinced the situation is that simple. Sometimes the most dangerous secrets are the ones left unfinished. Imagine for a moment that Faison left behind more than research. Imagine he left behind instructions, hidden files, contingency plans, and information designed to activate years after his death. If that is the case, then stopping one project may not eliminate the threat. It may simply redirect it. This is where Pascal enters the story. Of all the characters involved, Pascal may be the most intriguing. His recent behavior feels unpredictable, almost deliberately unsettling. Every scene seems to hint that he knows more than he is willing to reveal. I find myself asking whether Pascal is serving Sidwell, manipulating Cullum, or pursuing an agenda entirely of his own. The uncertainty surrounding Pascal is what makes him effective. In soap operas, obvious villains are rarely the most dangerous. The truly dangerous figures are those whose motivations remain hidden. Pascal's action suggests someone who is watching events unfold while quietly positioning himself for a future move. Could Pascal have connections to Faison that nobody suspects? Could he be protecting information that others are trying to destroy? Could he be manipulating both Sidwell and Cullum without either man realizing it? These questions become increasingly important because the story keeps emphasizing darkness, obsession, and secrecy. Pascal seems connected to all three. One reason I find this storyline compelling is that it reflects a classic General Hospital theme. The greatest threats are often not external enemies, they are internal obsessions. Sidwell appears obsessed with control. Cullum appears obsessed with success. Pascal appears obsessed with hidden knowledge. Britt may be obsessed with stopping a disaster before it begins. When multiple obsessions collide, disaster becomes inevitable. I also believe the writers are building toward a significant betrayal. Soap opera history teaches us that alliances formed under pressure rarely survive. Sidwell and Cullum may appear united now, but relationships built on fear are fundamentally unstable. Eventually, one of them will decide that the other has become a liability. When that moment arrives, the consequences could be explosive. What if Cullum discovers that Sidwell never intended to share control of the project? What if Sidwell learns that Cullum has been withholding critical information? What if both men discover that Pascal has been manipulating them from the beginning? Any of these possibilities could shatter the current balance of power. As a longtime viewer, I find myself less interested in the scientific details and more interested in the emotional consequences. Science may drive the plot, but emotion drives the characters. That is why Britt remains such a vital figure in this narrative. Her choices have the potential to expose truths that others desperately want buried. There is also a tragic quality to this storyline that reminds me of some of General Hospital's strongest years. Many of the characters appear trapped by decisions made long ago. Faison's shadow lingers. Old secrets refuse to stay buried. New ambitions awaken old fears. Every attempt to move forward seems to pull these characters deeper into the past. That is why I do not believe the real story is about cold fusion. I believe the real story is about inheritance, not financial inheritance, not scientific inheritance, moral inheritance. The characters are inheriting the consequences of choices made by previous generations. Faison may be gone, but the damage he created continues to spread. Sidwell believes he can harness that legacy. Cullum believes he can profit from it. Pascal may believe he can control it. Britt may be the only person who understands that some legacies should never be preserved. As I reflect on everything unfolding right now, I cannot help feeling that the story is moving toward a reckoning. The pressure on Cullum is increasing. Sidwell's desperation is becoming more visible. Pascal's behavior grows more suspicious with every passing episode. Britt remains elusive, yet her influence continues to shape the narrative. Something is coming. The atmosphere surrounding this storyline feels heavier than a typical mystery. It feels like the calm before a storm. The writers are planting pieces across the board, encouraging viewers to focus on the search for Britt, while quietly building larger questions about power, responsibility, and the cost of forbidden knowledge. After so many years of watching General Hospital, I have learned to pay attention to what characters fear most. Right now, Sidwell fears losing control. Cullum fears failure. Pascal fears exposure. Britt may fear what happens if the truth emerges too late. Those fears are far more important than any laboratory experiment. In the end, that is what keeps me invested in this story. Not the science, not the conspiracy, not even the mystery itself. What keeps me watching is the possibility that every character involved is standing on the edge of a revelation that could change their lives forever. And if General Hospital stays true to its tradition, that revelation will not arrive quietly. It will arrive through betrayal, heartbreak, sacrifice, and consequences that nobody can fully predict. For longtime viewers like myself, That combination remains one of the reasons this remarkable series continues to hold our attention after all these years. One of the most disturbing developments emerging from this storyline is the growing possibility that Sidwell's ambitions are no longer limited to controlling research, protecting secrets, or manipulating those around him. Instead, the narrative appears to be expanding into something far darker. The shadow of death is beginning to fall across everyone connected to his plans, and that should concern every viewer who has been paying attention. For weeks, I have been wondering whether Sidwell's obsession would eventually reach a point where human lives became expendable. Now it feels as though we may be approaching that very moment. The situations surrounding Pascal and Lucas are creating an atmosphere of dread unlike anything we have seen in recent months. There is a growing sense that neither man fully understands the danger surrounding them. Pascal has always been one of the most mysterious figures in this story. His actions have often appeared suspicious, but they have also suggested that he possessed knowledge that others desperately wanted to keep hidden. That alone places him in a dangerous position. Throughout the history of General Hospital, characters who know too much rarely remain safe for long. If Pascal has uncovered information connected to Sidwell's operation, the cold fusion project, or the remnants of Faison's legacy, then his life may already be in jeopardy. What makes the situation even more alarming is that Pascal's recent behavior suggests he may have been preparing for something. Was he gathering evidence? Was he attempting to expose the truth? Or was he trying to protect someone from the consequences of what was about to happen? These questions become increasingly important if the rumors of his death prove true. Then there is Lucas. Unlike Pascal, Lucas represents something different within this story. He represents innocence caught in the middle of a dangerous game. If Lucas becomes a victim of the growing conflict, it would signal a major shift in Sidwell's character. It would demonstrate that the pursuit of power has completely consumed whatever limits he once possessed. I find myself asking a troubling question. What if the deaths of Pascal and Lucas are not isolated tragedies? What if they are connected pieces of a much larger strategy? Sidwell may believe that eliminating threats is the only way to preserve his plans. But history has repeatedly shown that every attempt to silence the truth only creates more enemies and more questions. The irony is that these deaths could ultimately become Sidwell's greatest mistake. Fear can control people for a time, but loss often inspires resistance. The people left behind may become determined to uncover exactly what happened and why. That is why I believe the story is entering a new phase. This is no longer simply a mystery about experiments or hidden research. It is becoming a story about consequences. Every secret, every betrayal, and every act of manipulation is beginning to produce a deadly cost.